Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. Soly here, two-man show tonight, joined by my guy, Mr. DJ Pie. Hello, Pie Man.
Hello. Let him cook, Solly. I'm ready. I'm ready to
Nobody
talk.
is letting him cook.
Nobody's gonna let this guy cook, man. I'm excited to talk about Min Woo Lee's victory down in Houston. We got a fun back nine. We got all kinds of fun stuff to get to. Good to be with you, my man.
As mentioned, Min Woo Lee wins down in Houston. Eugenio Chacarra wins the Hero Indian Open. We're going to talk a little bit about that. LIV Vu was leading in the final round of the LPGA event out in Arizona called the Ford Championship, presented by Wild Horse Pass, which is a very sick tournament name. Hyoju Kim has the lead over Allison Corpuz. They got the back nine to go. We might have some more closer to a final result by the time we finish recording here tonight. What do you got for us?
So it's not often that we all agree on something, but based on what I've seen recently, I think we can all agree the new hyperflex shoe from FootJoy is a winner. Would you agree?
I would agree. It's comfortable like a sneaker, but it is made for golf. It's got the targeted performance and stability where you need it. If you need any further evidence, I wore them at the Gasparilla. They hold up really well to a lot of golf shots. They're really durable
too.
You can there's a lot of zigzagging back and forth. They're just really comfortable if you like to walk, but they're also really stable. It's got a great balance of casual and traditional. That's what I like about them. Some of the like the more tennis shoe golf shoes can just you don't feel that stability, and you're a little more hesitant to swing hard at it. That's my words. That's not in the copy, but we've seen a bunch of tour players convert as well. Justin Thomas was the one that led the way. He moved from 33rd in the world to inside the top 10 since he made the switch in the fall. And according to JT and his trainer, Colby Tollier, hyperflex is allowing JT to explode off his right side. He's using his body more efficiently. He's creating more vertical force, and his ball speed is up significantly just by finding the right golf shoe. Just in doing some stack stuff in the backyard. If I switch up shoes, sometimes my numbers are different, which is honestly kind of surprised. We made fun of the square stuff for way too long because it can be very influential. For JT, like many players, footwear testing has become very similar to driver or ball fitting. They're trying to get as much data as they can around how shoes are improving their ability to maximize performance. For them, like many of us, Hyperflex gives them exactly what they need. It's a fantastic combination of stability and flexibility. Looks great, and it's very, very comfortable. As you shop for shoes this year, make sure to check out the new Hyperflex from FootJoy and learn more at footjoy.com. Down in Houston at the Houston Open, which slaps according to TC, but also doesn't slap with overseed according to TC. Min Woo Lee opens 66, 64, 63 with a 4-shot lead going to the final round over Alejandro Tosti, who we, of course, will talk about. 5-shot lead over Scottie Scheffler, Ryan Gerard, Ryan Fox. Kind of a shaky front nine for Min Woo, but got it in at 2 under par, and held off the initial run, made back-to-back birdies on 12 and 13, got the lead up to 4, and it looked like they were letting him cook. And then they left what happened in the Bear? They left the orders ticket system.
I think they left the online orders open too early. So
and the
everybody's
kitchen
just
got
ordering
rushed.
online. Kitchen just gets bull rushed. It's just a disaster.
It
Yeah,
was
I'd say that happened, but they got it under control pretty quick. One hole and we're back.
blows it off the planet right into the water on the par 5 16th when like literally all he had to do was cover land, and this tournament's pretty much over. Scottie's up ahead putting for eagle at this moment, which could have tied things, but Min Woo actually ended up making birdie on his second ball, which was bogey. Scottie misses the eagle putt. But now he's got to hold off Scottie on the final 2 holes, but Scottie did not birdie either of the last 2. Gets up and down from long of the green. Gary Woodland made a little run in there, birdied 15, eagled 16 to get within a couple there at the very end and close it off with a great birdie. He finishes 1 shot back. But Min Woo Lee goes long on 18. A lot of comments on his pace, which maybe we can talk about as well, but putts it up there to within 6-8 inches or so. Put a little in classic Min Woo style, put a little flare on it, aim pointed the 8-inch
You
putt.
had to love that. That was good.
It kind of got booed a little bit. I don't think people were in on the joke there for a second, but taps it in and gets his first win. Your reaction to the chef?
It was electric, man. I had a really great time watching it. It was, a guy that we have called the unstable compound, I think for good reason. We saw that certainly on 16, but he's been in this situation. Each time he's contended, he's kind of blown up on the launch pad a little bit. There's been a lot of questionable decisions, a lot of narrative, and didn't know how it was going to go today with a little bit of a cushion that was kind of a new position. And like you said, it was a little bit of a scratchy start, but also like he just kept staying in it, kept making putts when he needed to make putts, kept hitting good chips when he would get loose with the irons. didn't hit very many fairways this week and just also didn't make very many bogeys, you know? So say what you will about that, but hung around. And then we did have the one moment of just like, okay, maybe this guy is who we thought he was. And then he absolutely slammed the door, you know, coming down on 18. That was that lag
Closed the door. He
on 18 is sorry, what I should have said. That lag putt from the fringe was nails. I mean, that was really, really, really good. The shot in 17 looked like a little flippy, a little spooky to that back left pin, but he got the job done, man. And you could see the relief on his face. I loved his interview with Kira afterwards, just talking about how mentally exhausted he was. That was one of the best pictures into how hard it is to win on the PGA Tour, I think, that we've gotten in a long time. And I don't know him at all. I just see him, you know, on TV like everybody else, but it's like he kind of strikes me as the type of guy that, like, once he gets one of these over the finish line, he's going to exhale a little bit more, and he's just going to play maybe a little less tight when he gets in those situations, and kind of trust his talent, and maybe not have to make it look quite so hard the next time around. Do you feel any of that?
You're teaming me up to be negative here after he just got his first career PGA Tour win. He's won the DP World Tour before, but my honest and true gut feeling, I like Minwoo Lee a lot. I'm rooting for him. I want him to win 20 tournaments. Like, he's an entertaining character for the game. I still just see, like, I felt like he got away with a lot. Like, he was tailor made for that style of golf course. Like, a lot of PGA Tour golf courses, and definitely major championship golf courses, and a place like TPC Sawgrass, the kind of misses he had of the course of this day are going to punish you more than that happened today. I mean, you can blow it off the map on that golf course and make a par relatively easy, and that's honestly not taking anything. This is the golf tournament they were playing this week. He beat Scottie Scheffler, he beat Rory McIlroy, he beat everyone in the field on that golf course. That's not me diminishing the win. As we go to project that out, like a question from Shell's Wonderful World of Golf, great Twitter handle, obviously. He said, in the opinion of the fellas, what is Minwoo Lee's ceiling? Major winner, multiple major winner, top 10 player. I'd have to see like a lot of progression with off the tee game. I mean, he was 22 of 52 in fairways this week, which is sick. He
Which
had
is
more.
sick, you have to admit.
He had 26 birdies and hit 22 fairways, which, like, again, this kind of golf course, you don't need to like blow it, hit it hard. He hits it 195 miles an hour. Like, credit to him for that. That is definitely a skill, but he's going to have to keep the race car on the track at some more demanding venues. So does this change what I think about his ceiling? Not really. I think he had a good week with the iron play this week, and really good putting week. Like, it was second in putting this week, and it didn't feel fluky. Like, he was just very, very, very solid on every putt he needed to make. It just is going to take a lot more refinement. And that one blow off the map on 16 is that, like, okay, I don't know if I can get like fully on board the straight into the top 10. Here comes a major championship with this version of Minwoo Lee. That's not to say that he can't improve some of these flaws, but I'm kind of going to need to see it more before I declare that. What do you think?
No, I think that's fair. I mean, worth calling out. He's 26, and he's been, you know, a fairly world-class player for a while, you know, at least into big events and into big moments in big fields for quite a while now. So, like you said, he still can add more pieces and, you know, almost add more pitches, right? Is kind of what we're looking for him to do. We know he's got the fastball. Would love to see a little more command on that, and maybe add, you know, get some ride on that cutter, you know, maybe add a sweeper later. But, like, I guess what's cool is for events like this,
To me, it feels like a reliever. Like,
right
that's
now,
more.
right now,
That's yeah.
yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, maybe, you know, there's time. The organization's long on this guy. We got a very team friendly deal. Maybe we get him.
We're
Maybe
in
we get him.
baseball season now, guys. Get ready for 6 months of this.
Maybe we get him into you know, more of a starter role. But I think what's cool is, for now, it's almost like if you were gonna design a modern professional golfer right now, and a guy who's like, it depends what you wanted to make your KPI here, but it's like, let's just say it's money, right? Like, you just want to make a professional golfer who's going to make the most money possible. It's like
Fastest way to the top 50 would
you'd
be my
want
say.
somebody who hits it really long,
Yep.
who puts it really good, and, like, he's, you know, obviously you'd like pick iron play too, but that's kind of where he's diminished. It's like, if you can drive the shit out of it, hit your irons average is, I think, kind of where he's at, and he chips and putts the shit out of it. It's like,
Yeah.
man, that's a pretty good recipe to at least get to the cocktail party, you know? And, like, once you do that, now he's got a couple years exemptions, you know. It's like, he talked a little bit in his pressers this week about, getting steeper with the irons and just like having a totally different feel with his ball striking, which led to better results. And it's like, man, maybe you stack up a little more confidence and a little more of those kind of like ball striking attributes. And then it's like he is a different player going forward than the player that he has been. So that's where I'm not good enough, certainly, to like project out, oh man, here's how his iron play is going to change. It's like looking back on it, on how it has been and looking at it, what it is right now is like, I'm with you on everything you're saying is like, yeah, this doesn't really project great for like Augusta necessarily, but
Ironically, because it's supposed to be kind of set up with the grass types of Augusta and things like
right.
that. But
But it's like that's the kind of place where it's like, do you need to be, hitting your irons kind of within about an inch of where you're looking, type of place. And so, yeah, I don't know. I hope he adds those tools and becomes, a guy that's like legitimately contending in multiple majors. Right now, it's like he kind of threatened at the U.S. Open, T5 at LACC, which was probably a golf course much more like this one, almost than normal US Open, just wide fairways and a little bit different kind of setup than we traditionally see. So outside of that, not a ton of success at the majors, but also not a bunch of car wrecks either. It's almost like kind of hard to predict, which I think makes it kind of fun because I had a blast watching him. He almost was like watching a college kicker out there. It's like, dude, I have
no
no
idea what's
idea.
coming.
I have no idea what's gonna happen. And then you got Scottie chasing him down. Gary Woodland's hitting all kinds of shots. Rory's hitting all kinds of shots. Wyndham Clark's up there for a little while. It was like
It's
a
a
really
great
fun
Sunday.
tournament, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good stuff.
What do you make of Memorial Park? I feel like it's gotten pretty rave reviews on this podcast. I'll ask you that before I chime in.
I have never been to it. I would love to see it in person. It seems like it's punches
As a
well.
pro golf venue, I'm asking the question
Yeah,
here.
it seems like it. Yeah, I think that's a different question. I don't know. It's interesting. Like I've been really I've gone way in on all the width and angle stuff for so long, but seeing a guy that hits 5 fairways and shoots 63 is I'm like, this kind of sucks too, right? Like this.
I've got to be really careful with
I
why it
know,
wasn't
I
working for
know.
me because it didn't have thick rough. They had a lot of mid irons into greens. There's like some longer, meteor holes on there. Some really good contouring around the greens. It just feels like the overseed plus the rain just takes the entire point of the challenge of the I remember when this was a fall event and it was dormant Bermuda,
Yeah.
like how much the slopes around the greens came alive and how that test was completely different when the grass is not just flushersonly.com and you can pure it off of every single lie. And ball in hand early part of this week didn't help, but maybe it's just cameras or whatnot. There was nothing distinct to look at as to like, I didn't know whether the shots were straight, crooked, left, right.
Yeah.
You couldn't really see much because it's such a flat property. And it just was kind of like, it felt like you could hit it maybe you could, if you could hit it anywhere out there and it kind of didn't really matter, which that is kind of where I'm like, I don't know if that is the thing for me, but I don't want to punish them too hard for like getting a lot of rain and having it be overly wet and like that being the problem because like the chip shot that Scottie had on 18, they used a low camera for once and showed how big that contour is up there, which like that's what I'm looking for out of pro golf. But when it's that soft, it just and the grass is that perfect, it's just not that hard of a shot.
And that's where I have a hard time really weighing in, just having never been there and never really seen it. Is like I look at
It's
that
a public
putt.
golf course first. Like
No,
that's what and we're not hating on any of
no, not
I
at
would love
all.
to play it, and it's like it's really cool that they go to a golf course that is a $60 municipal golf course, and it fits all of what should be a $60 municipal course on top of being like a very 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 pure place. It just some of that didn't necessarily come alive in this past week's tournament.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I guess what I would say about it is, even from a pro golf standpoint, even like I said, as it starts to feel a little bit like drive it anywhere and you can still make birdie. I still had a really fun time watching it. Still a good variety of holes. I like the shorter par threes, the long par threes. I like the reachable par fives. I like some of the short par fours. Like it was,
13 is awesome.
yeah,
I
man.
love that pin is so good that they
It,
use on Sundays.
it's really fun, and there's downside risk out there. You can hit the slope, like even though the slopes aren't firing at a million, like there's still downside. You don't control your spin. You can rip one off into like a low swale. That looks like some cool tiers on the greens, especially like that par three on the back nine, where Minwoo kind of didn't quite get to the right shelf, and now has a much tougher putt, and just made like a much more difficult two putt. Like there still is clearly a ton of nuance. What I was going to say earlier is, The shot that sticks out to me weirdly is Scottie's putt on 17. He had just seen Jesper Svensson hit the exact same putt. He had just seen it slam on the brakes, and still he wasn't really able to adjust. That tells me, I'm like, man, there's got to be so much more going on in that putt than I'm able to see from like a high tower flat camera.
Yeah.
And like that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, I have to see it in person before I think have too much of an opinion.
Well, it just looked like there was a ton of balls this week that got to a point where I was like, oh, here it goes off the green. And it would stop like a foot away from probably where it should have gone.
Yeah.
And spoiler, that's not how it's going to work at Augusta. I don't care how much rain they get between now and then, but
For sure.
and that's not how I remember the course playing in the past. So that's where I'm kind of like, it has a lot to do with the weather, which can I get you to join me in this one? You probably would be fine getting rid of LIV Clean in Place forever, which is not unrealistic, but what do you think?
Would just be one decision.
Well,
it doesn't take a fucking act of Congress to.
I still think we need some reform on LIV Clean in Place, and I want you to join me on this one. You pick the number 3, somewhere between 3 and 5. I've said this before, but I want to officially declare this.
Like you only get to pick it up that many times,
3 to 5 times.
Yeah,
around.
I'd love that. Any reform,
like save it for mud balls, like a true mud ball. Like I'm gonna burn, not for I missed 2 feet off the green and I can use a club length and pick the lie I want and all of that. Like there's no reason professional golfers need that much relief. Like you got to use it for when you have a mud ball and you actually, because I don't think mud balls are fun. I don't think that's good test of golf. So there's something there to say like, all right, if you get a really bad mud ball, clean it off. But you're just going to be a little more thoughtful on when you actually use them if you're limited.
Let me know if I can phone bank for that idea. If I can go knock on doors, I'm in. It sounds great.
It seems unrealistic. That's going to happen.
Again, it doesn't. It just, well, I mean, yes, it is, but like it shouldn't be. It should be just it's just a decision, right?
A couple mean-spirited questions on the Minwoo front from Ryan Peruski. What are Tron Carter's thoughts on Minwoo winning a tournament before Tommy? Russ Flynn said, does Minwoo now dethrone Tommy Ladd as one of the top 10 players without a major? I'm not even reading those questions into the record, guys. That's just so mean-spirited, and I would not do that with TC not being here tonight. So it's completely unfair.
I will take a semi-serious take at those. Like, listen, the Tommy stuff, we took some barrel fire on that. That's fine. The list is going forward, and it's like if it's truly still right now, if there's a major starting tomorrow, like, am I picking Minwoo Lee because he won a tournament, or am I picking Tommy Fleetwood? Like, dog, it's not close, man.
Like giving
there
TC
are different
shit,
skills that go into these different tournaments, right? And like that's, I don't know, that seems like hopefully Minwoo goes and wins the Masters and he rubs our face in it, because that would be electric. But
we will mea culpa the shit out of that one if that's the case.
That would not be where my as stupid as it is, or stupid as it feels to put money on Tommy, I would still do it over the beloved chef.
I just put it here. It's Tosti time, baby. Alejandro Tosti playing in the final pairing.
He was kind of shifting and bending time out there. It sounds like go play it super fast and then play it super slow. Bones just shitting all over him like openly. It was great. That is not a knock on Bones. Like that was truly enthusiastically. Like I love hearing commentators say what's like actually on their minds, and him being like, man, this is like kind of, it's pretty disrespectful what's going on right here. I was like, hell yeah. All right.
So earlier in the round, Minwoo drives it under a tree, of course, and is trying to decide what to do, and takes an obnoxiously long period of time. And I was kind of half paying attention to it. I kind of thought there was some ruling part of it, but it took him 30 minutes to play the 8th hole, which, like, hey, from that perspective, I'm Alejandro Tosti, and so Tosti was getting into a rules official's ass about this happening, which, like, again, Tosti's got a really tough reputation, well-deserved, and probably doesn't get the benefit of the doubt in these scenarios. But, from a bird's eye view, it's like, yeah, it's kind of a pretty reasonable grievance to have here of like why they probably got put on the clock, because they fell way behind because Minwoo took forever to do this. And again, a lot of comments about Minwoo's pace of play, which I don't notice as much as some people watching, because apparently that's all people have their stopwatches out. And said Brian Kirshner said he deserves the same treatment as Tom Kim and Patrick Cantlay, which we will look into that later. But Bones chimes in to say, at a certain point, I don't know what's going on, but Tosti is playing at his own pace. At times it's normal. At times it's glacially slow, but he's decided on this particular hole to really take his time, and he's holding up play in the last group. He's got 150 now that he's here as he gets to his ball. We got a bunch of great ones. Callaway 20, is Tosti exactly what the tour needs right now? Seabus Drew, is Tosti the John Rocker of golf, stirring up controversy but might not be good enough to close in the big leagues? Still needs a W to be a solid villain.
Tosti's
mean,
have you looked at Tosti's skill profile before?
I'm guessing it's masher. It's probably pretty similar to everybody else on the top of this leaderboard.
It's very similar to Minwoo Lee, except he doesn't putt it or chip it good, which is tough. And if you go back and look at, first of all, I'm with you too. Like, get this guy involved more and more. Every time he came up on the screen, I was kind of leaning in and hoping that we'd pick up a little bit of
We
audio.
needed a mic on him
Yes.
afterwards. We needed an interview.
Yeah, just a tough kind of last 25 events. I don't need to go through them all, but it's truly like a miss the cut or kind of threaten the top 10. It's kind of running that Scott Stallings playbook a little bit.
He loves
right
his
now.
golf course too.
Yeah, the place where he finished. What did he finish? Third here last year or second?
T2.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Just an electric factory. Maybe not for all the best reasons.
I would have liked, maybe he's given an interview as we're recording this right after play ended. I don't know if anybody got to him and got any comments from him. We can check here in a second, but wanted a little bit more color on that one. But yeah, I don't know. Again, he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt in any of these situations. But I thought there was going to maybe be a showdown on 18. Minwoo kind of play, because Minwoo did a big celebration before he actually holed out, which, like, the point of marking the putt is so that, the crowd doesn't get all super jacked up before the other guys finish. And he got the crowd super jacked up. I was like, man, you push Tosti, press his buttons any more than you already have, you might get yourself in a little bit of trouble here. But
And good for Tosti though. Steps up and birdies 18. Probably big ass paycheck for him just breaking out of that group. Of what was that, like T9?
He got 337K for everybody to finish at T5, and not as much as you might think. Ninth place got 277. So
Okay.
still,
Hey, better
nice
than
finish for him.
poking the eye with a sharp stick, as my dad liked to say.
Big freaking moment and day for Gary Woodland. Goes 66-62 on the weekend. Club twirls it into 18. Like I mentioned
What a
earlier,
shot.
birdied 15, which not a lot of guys were doing today. Eagles 16, drains a long putt and makes a par on 17, and then hits it from 200 yards, absolutely stuffs the pinata 18 to roll in a birdie. Well documented at this point, but kind of still not something that you can ever really breeze past, is the fact that he had a lesion on his brain, on the part of his brain that induces fear and anxiety. It was well documented in Full Swing season 3 this past year. Just to get him out back on the golf course and be competitive and to finish one shot out of another PGA Tour victory is remarkable. That's probably as good as he's ever felt walking off a golf course that includes a major championship he won. So good for Gary. Happy for one of the good guys on tour.
Absolutely. The guy who I forgot how much I love watching his golf swing. Everybody talks about like the down cock, but it's like it is totally unique on the PGA Tour. It's really fun to watch. He every time I've dealt a very small amount of times I've dealt with him, he's been awesome. And just a guy that everybody seems to really rally around who went through something pretty horrifying, man, and to bounce back. And I don't know. I always thought about that with JB Holmes too, right? Like nobody talked about that a ton, but went through something I think somewhat similar, right? At least brain surgery of some kind. And I feel like to come back and live even like a normal life feels like a massive W. To come back and play golf at like an incredibly high level just seems truly inconceivable to me. And so the fact that these guys could do it is awesome, and the fact that it's even possible with modern medicine, is possible, is unbelievable. So
Have you watched Full Swing?
honestly,
It's okay if you haven't. Well,
I have not.
like, there's a part in there where he details he wrote letters to his kids, as in, like,
yeah, I'm sure.
don't know if I'm making it. It's freaking incredible. It was it had to be, and the crowd was fully behind it, and they documented it really well today. So
Yeah.
great for him.
Good for him. You know what? I messaged you that shot on 18. Like, he's so far like wide right, up against they gotta like move patrons back. Fans. I don't know why I've said patrons.
It's Augusta season,
Yeah,
baby.
that's stupid. He's got to like move fans back on the right side, and the fans are so close. He's hitting like kind of a long iron ish in there, and I'm just like, I was messaging you. I'm like, dude, if he shanks that, it would be truly like a a death sentence for one of these fans. Like that would go bad so quick. How are these guys are just not thinking about that stuff?
On
It's
the 72nd
crazy.
hole, I don't know if you can be like, yeah, in case I shank it,
I don't
guys,
know.
just everybody scoot back.
Just I don't know. Pro golf in general just rides like such this crazy fine line. I always think about this that like, you know, NFL game, NBA game. I mean, I guess NBA game you could be maybe sitting on the floor, but it's like
Jason Day's wife.
that's true. Like golf, it's just like, all right, hey, there's this rope. No one's gonna go underneath the rope, right? Like everybody's everybody's on the same page. It just there's a couple moments a year that just lay bare, like, man, this is what a wild security thing that we've got going on here. But yeah, guys just standing right in the shank zone would have just been complete lights out if Gary hosels that one, but instead he hits it to like 2 feet. So
2 feet 2 inches
these
to
guys
be
are good.
exact. Yeah. Scott Scheffler, #1 in strokes gained, approaching the green on this Sunday. His final round before the Masters. He finishes one shot out of the playoff, shooting a final round 63, birdies on 10, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Pretty vintage Scottie run there coming down the stretch. And it felt like, I don't know, I want to say he ran out of holes, but it felt like if this thing would have gone 18 holes longer, that he would have been able to run down Monroe.
Yes, absolutely. 6th this week in strokes gained putting for all the haters and losers that said it would never come back. I don't know, man. I would be I'm getting very amped. I'm going to try not to do too much Masters talk here until it's time for the Masters, but it's kind of starting to feel like a little bit of a two-horse race, which would be really fucking fun to just
Wow.
get like a duel between those two.
Would you take those two or the field right now?
I would take those
I'm not
2
going to
right
let you.
I would
I'm
take
not
those
going to
2
let
right
you
now.
do not Masters. Yeah.
Right? I mean, is it not a two-horse race right now? Who else is like
I think the math would
I
probably
get
still
that, like,
tell you should take the
of
field,
course,
but it's really hard to like do a
like,
talk show
those guys are in a
and say that.
different
Yeah.
universe right now than everybody else.
Well, worth noting, Rory McIlroy shot a final round 64, cashed that FanDuel pick from earlier today, under 66.5. Thank you very much. Got about
Baller.
1/100th of the messages I did from barely missing that Keegan bet a couple weeks ago. Thanks, everybody. Rory shoots 64, bogeys the 18th hole, actually. Kind of looked like he was going to make a little threat there, but fourth and eighth in strokes gained off the tee this week, 27th approach, 12th around the green, 21st in putting. All right, here's my talking myself into Rory take on this. Perfect week for
Yeah,
Rory. Not
totally.
close enough. Winning would have been a disaster. Winning
Almo
would have been the worst thing he could have done. And a
We've
super
tried
close
that
call
before. Doesn't
wouldn't
work.
have been, yeah, wouldn't have been that much better. A T5 again on a golf course that's really not like Augusta. Yeah, you got the hit off the overseed. That's pretty much it. But I wouldn't. It could only have distracted him if he would have won this and had to do the whole winners tour and had the exhaustion that comes from winning. And I'm not saying that facetiously. Like, I honestly and truly think his odds of winning the Masters are better having not won this week. And I'm just gonna say it. Are you coming? Are you coming to the party?
Well, the definition of what that means changes all the time. Do I think he can win? Yes, I definitely do think he can win. Am I rooting for him to win? Yes, I definitely am rooting for him to win. Uh, so I think that means yes, I'm gonna be there. I'm coming to the party. I don't know if I'm picking him solely right now above all other players. I don't know if I'm picking him above Scott Scheffler right now, but yeah, I'm as excited as I think I've been because I think it's
Was
kind
that a
of
Spieth comment in there? Solely,
I
you're saying solely?
almost stopped. I was like, "Ooh, should I make a Spieth joke?" No, I'll just keep moving. Solely, great to see you again. Yeah, I mean, I think this is like a dream week. Like you said, he played just good enough to have a ton of confidence and keep the confidence rolling. Figured out a little something with the driver today. I think he said he maybe changed a couple settings or something that
Yeah, I took
changed
some
the
loft
loft
off
or
his
added
driver.
loft. Yeah,
Drove it better,
uh,
yeah.
and drove it great today. That was kind of the shaky thing last time we saw him. So I don't know, man. I have nothing but good vibes. I mean, it seems like again, I know Morikawa's obviously playing great as well, but it's like I feel like it's been a pretty Scottie, I'm sure would have loved to get a win, but I gotta think that both of those guys are just like feeling like 95 out of 100 right now. As far as like, man, that's about as good as my prep could have gone. I think on the Scottie side, it's like coming off the injury and how's his hand going to be and all that stuff is like he probably I'm sure he expects to win every time. Shout out to Tiger, but it's like I don't know. I do you agree with that? Like, is Scotty like disappointed that he doesn't have a victory, or is he looking at like, man, I'm still mega competitive and could have pretty much won. I could have won a lot of these golf tournaments that I played already, and just didn't really go my way.
I think Scottie would have liked to have seen the ball go through the hoop in one of these. Honestly, it was kind of a late flurry here. I mean, again, kind of good ascending as we're 2 weeks out from starting this thing, but I guess less than that from starting it. But it's got to be a really different feeling of, I would think that the guys feel like he's a little bit vulnerable heading into this one. Like it's a reason for,
Shout out to Stephen
honestly,
Ames.
it's a it's a little bit of a reason for Rory to psych himself out as I go to say it. I'm like, oh, it really is one of his best opportunities ever, and an opportunity that I feel way differently about than I have in past years. I've been quite dismissive of his chances and been quite right about a lot of those, and to much dissent among this group and much hate. It feels like I said this after the players, and I think I said it Thursday and Friday and Saturday, the players, like, this feels like the most complete game we've seen from Rory.
Yeah.
And if it's going to happen, just kind of a little bit more of a fuck you attitude that he's carrying right now, it just feels like this is an actual serious chance. So if you had to pick between the two of them right now, you
I
can
know
only pick
that's
one.
what's so fun. Ugh.
Does the elbow tightness worry you about any potential Tommy
No,
John?
I think
for
they get him
Rory?
on a 6-day rest, and he's gonna be okay. Maybe skip a start. He's gonna be fine. God, I hate this game. Just a
I'll do it if you want me to.
AK-47 to my head right now. I'm picking the guy who's won it twice over the guy
I
who has been snake bitten there
who's been
1,000 times.
comically psyched out by this place.
I think that's the tiebreaker right now. I
I
don't
was
think
literally
that's
getting ready
I
to
don't
do it
think that's
before you said
I
that.
don't think that's controversial.
Why the hell not? I'm going Rory, man.
Should we do a little head-to-head bet?
Sure.
All right.
That and the Brewers Red Series
Yeah.
series bet.
Brewers are
No.
due. I'd be scared coming in for a 4-game set. Brewers are due after this
We
weekend.
need Rory to try one of those torpedo bats the Yankees are using.
Fucking cheaters. Yeah, I think I'm going Scottie right now, but the subject, odds are subject to change on that one.
Okay.
But I don't know what would have, like, I guess we're not going to see him again before the first round. So I don't know what would change.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. We'll find out.
Rory, maybe worth mentioning now, took a little visit to Augusta.
He did.
Had a couple little some interesting quotes. I think Cameron Jordan from Golf Week rounded those up. But basically he was talking about how 4 greens are brand new and redone. He wouldn't say which greens they were, which is interesting. I'm sure people will be digging into that. I'm sure one of them was 16, obviously, where the big tree fell, but it sounds like they put Humpty Dumpty back together on that one and recreated it exactly according to Rory's comments. Anyways, I liked his note. There's like maybe a couple fewer shadows with some of the trees that went down there, but other than that, the green appears to be exactly how it was. And then not too much else kind of to report. I mean, it sounds like everything else is pretty much business as usual, which I know was a little bit of uncertainty with Hurricane Helene going through there last fall. But anything else from his comments there?
No, don't think so. Other than, the mystery is no real drastic changes. I think you don't really. I don't know when the first word is that usually comes out when there is changes, but the club doesn't really announce it necessarily, and just to get the kind of confirmation that there aren't major changes was interesting.
I liked his comments too about like going there beforehand. This has become a meme on this podcast, like the amount of times he's joked about, I'm not going at all. Okay, I'm going a bunch of times. I'm gonna go
I'll show up
practice.
on Wednesday.
I'm not practicing. Like he I thought was very level headed in his comments this week, where he's like, man, the week turns into such a zoo, and I've got so much stuff to do. I've got like media, I've got tournament obligations. There's all kinds of like stuff that it's just very hard. It seems like it's very hard to get real meaningful work done the week of the tournament. Things are moving quick. A lot of guys are usually playing 9 holes one day, 9 holes the other day. And so I think, it sounded like he really enjoyed just posting up and being able to really, really, really take his time. No fans around, no other players around, really, just like probably go out there and, probably one of those days where you go play a 7-hour round of golf and you're just chipping and putting everywhere and just really taking your time. So I know he's tried that in the past, and, we're kind of, again, we're joking about how he's employed every tactic at this point, but that seems to be the one that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. God, I'm hesitant to even say this though, but there is something different about tournament golf course versus even a couple weeks out.
Sure.
Like, there's a big difference.
Even
And
sometimes within the tournament from day to day.
Like, I've just seen way too many times of Rory just had that befuddled look on his face at Augusta when something, you know, it's not like you could. It's not the kind of place you can just go in advance and memorize everything that comes with it because the golf course changes personality. Looks like I just was looking at weather. It looks like a really hot week in Augusta this coming week with not much precipitation, and then it looks as of next Monday. It switched. Nope, the forecast has already changed since I looked earlier. It looked like it's going to be cooler. The high of 63, low of 49 on Tuesday, but like highs in the upper 80s on the better half of this next week with not a lot of rain. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know if that's too good of grass growing weather, and it's hard to get it kind of firmed up. But 85, 87, 86 in the back half of this week, and then high of 63 as of next Tuesday. So
It's
it's gonna be a good combo to get it firm
for sure,
what
and
I like.
it's very interesting to like to think about. I don't know. We've talked about Rory so much on this podcast, I think, but hearing, you know, thinking back to the majors that he has won, I think a lot of people in their heads have him as like, oh, it's if it's soft, he's gonna do great. He only wins on these soft golf courses. And like you mentioned it, he's just like such a different player than he was even 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, for sure. You know, it's like I almost in a weird way, I'm like, man, the harder it gets, the better for him. The more like if there's a little wind, I think that's better. If there's a little bit of elements, I think that's better. Like he just has become such a complete golfer that it's I almost feel like the harder it gets, the more him and Scottie are just gonna separate, you know?
Wow, I forgot about Brooks again. Wow, forgot
I
about
literally
Bryson
forgot about Brooks. Literally
and
forgot
Cam
about Brooks.
Smith and
Yeah,
all the live guys. John Rahm. Wow.
you're right. I did. I did.
Uh,
We'll see.
I forget if I mentioned this, but Sammy Valimaki made the cut on the number, aka Finnish Barstool Big Cat, to finish solo fourth. Wyndham Clark, Taylor Pendrith, Alejandro Tosti, and Rory rounded out the top five. A lot of BSIs or BSI adjacents in the top five of this past week. We just need to mention that. But
Listen, I know he hasn't had a great stretch the last couple events, but I just Taylor Pendrith is put up a lot of good results. And that's why I want TC to kind of find it in his heart, maybe to re-examine his take that I forget. I don't want to put any words in his mouth, but just lumping him in as just a truly like abhorrent golfer. I think he's maybe evolved. I think he's adding some skills, and while I don't know that he makes me feel a ton while I watch him play golf. Listen, you got to kind of call him like you see him, and the guy has put up some really good results. He's been playing some really good golf over the last year.
and he tried privately in our Slack this week to deny that he ever called Wyndham Clark a ball speed imposter, which he just like literally just searched in our Slack and found it from like 6 months ago. But yeah, a lot of stuff flying around behind the scenes. One thing I got from Amsterdam, that was the best player caddy convo effort I've ever seen out of NBC.
Yeah.
Like they were just like actively laying out and just getting a ton of. I mean, listen, was Minwoo and his caddy taking way too long to make the decisions? Yes, but they're getting all the audio at least in there, and that was a very clear intention and good execution on that. So
Yeah.
that's
Here,
the
here.
only coverage take for this week.
Here. Agree.
Shall we go to the back nine?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go to the 10th hole, which is going to be our live corner. I know you're
Yes.
pumped about this one. Couple things going on with live. First of all, the big announcement this week is that we've got the upcoming live duels. You know, kind of a creator classic 2.0 type of
What?
situation. This one is going to be different in that a bunch of the creators are going to be paired with some big name golfers. We've got Sergio Garcia playing with George Bryan, Bubba Watson playing with Luke Kwan, Joaquin Neiman playing with Rick Shields, Phil Mickelson playing with Grant Horvat, Dustin Johnson with Wes Bryan, Cameron Smith with Fat Perez, and then we're going to have Mason Nutt, Andrew Santino, Joey Coldcuts, and Robbie Berger from Bob Does Sports doing the commentary. And all of this is going to air, which is maybe the strangest part of all of this, but also like, yeah, on Grant Horvat's YouTube channel. It's all going to air there, which is just it's so a lot to go through here. Where would you like to start?
I mean, the guy that won the PGA Tour's Creator Classic is hosting the live duels on his YouTube channel. Like,
which, yeah, interesting stuff. But from a history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes type of perspective, it's kind of like yeah, man, I don't really know why any of these people would be loyal to the PGA Tour necessarily. Like, I don't know if the PGA Tour was expecting them to be like, "Yo, PGA Tour is about legacy," it just is really funny how fast it happened.
They might not have expected to have to suspend Wesley Bryan for playing in a live warm-up event.
Like, straight up, man, I was trying to reach out to the tour. I was trying to get some intel on this. I didn't really, couldn't really track down an official statement, but like, Wes is like, I mean, he played on the PGA Tour like last month. Like, he's a PGA Tour member. How does he not get suspended for this? Or how is this not the same disciplinary actions that, all the other players were subject to? It's
I
wild. And I don't know. It's like
I
he just
couldn't stop laughing all week at the thought of after all of this, after all of the players you've lost, the players you've thought you've maybe lost and are constantly battling on, just the email is going around of we've lost Fat Perez. Fat Perez is left for live. He's
Fat
over it.
Perez is gone.
We've lost the Brian. Both Brian brothers are
Yeah,
going. Both of them.
unfortunately.
Grant Horvat, the guy that won the Creator Classic, he's going too.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's wild, man. I think on the I would say on the positive side, I think this format makes a ton more sense to me. And this was kind of my whole thing with the Creator Classic, both of them that they had was I like there was just no real tie other than the golf course, which Sawgrass was very cool. East Lake is not my favorite, but whatever. Like there's just no real tie back to the actual product, and that's where I kind of constantly was like, man, this seems like such a whiff to not have players involved in this thing in some way. And so where I'm kind of like, man, massive kudos to Live is like there's some big ass names doing this, and like I think this is if you're gonna do something like this makes a ton of sense to me to pair these people who are bringing a new audience with a bunch of like your biggest stars is like, dude, that seems like that makes a ton of sense.
of
uh
course, they
y-
have like there's no reason Live shouldn't try anything to
right.
try to get people to watch. I mean, they obviously get zero viewership. They do a ton of extra stuff around their actual playing days, concerts and things to get people to stick around to really up the attendance and create the party atmosphere they want. So absolutely make it as like that. That's where the more surprising thing was that the tour kind of went for this fun, like why not kind of attitude towards getting some YouTube personalities out on the golf course prior to the tournament, build some awareness and just get people talking about something. Like this is a no-brainer to copy for Live, and this is a copy. Like don't make no mistake about it. Like it's straight up copying the homework of the people that that they're stealing all their players from. But it's just hilarious. Like it's I don't know what this does. Are all these creators banned from the next Creator Classic? Is another question I
I
have.
have
Who's going to
no
fill the field
idea.
at Truist?
I don't know. That one seems like it's gonna be. I don't know. I haven't talked to my player. I don't know if he's planning on playing that one or not. But that one seems like it's gonna be bleak to me personally. Just a really cool golf course, but not necessarily like the same draw as TPC Sawgrass. That one feels like a lot of random people playing a pretty random golf course. And probably a pretty bad TV product. So that's sort of a 1+1+1=0 type of situation. But I also like I think airing it on Grant's YouTube channel also makes a ton of sense, right? Like
Sure, get a
that's where
different audience. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, man, this
That's where I think Live is
it just seems
like.
like gripping the steering wheel a little less tight than the tour probably,
Well,
and
but
like
it's
getting a
also they
better
have
boost.
no actual product on the competition
Sure.
side, so why not like try to do something? I'm serious. They're
Yeah.
involved with like there's something going on with Liv and Bryson's YouTube channel. Like I think they, for as much as they're like, "Up, do whatever you want," Bryson's YouTube channel getting really popular set off some alarms at Liv to the point where I don't know what the final arrangement ended up being, but I'm almost certain there's a revenue share of some kind between whatever Bryson brings in on his YouTube that goes back towards Liv because they own his likeness and all that stuff. And like there's way more people watching Bryson's YouTube channel than watching Bryson on Liv. So it wouldn't surprise me if their strategy shifts towards like this major. I mean, if I'm them and I'm getting these embarrassing, hideous, horrific ratings on a every single week basis, why put yourself through that? Own the YouTube thing. Like if
Yeah.
own the streaming thing. Like for all like it's a good product. It was a way better product when it was just on YouTube. Like it was very easy to just tune in and see how many people were watching and like engage and fast forward through the highlights and stuff like that. They're better off doing that than like trying to trick people into watching it on television.
Also,
So
how
this makes sense with that,
yeah,
like
yeah,
that
totally.
combination.
Totally agree. Also, how's Bryson not playing in this? That's wild to me. That
Something going on there.
feels a little fishy to me, but we
Why
shall
would
see.
that be?
I know you're also geeked about this. Liv has announced a new all access series, which is premiering on On April 7th, I believe you have the trailer here.
I do. They posted this. This is courtesy of our friends at LIV Golf, the LIV Golf Tour. But here's the trailer.
This will never happen. They won't get the players.
You're wrecking the game. People said nobody's going to show up. All right.
All these guys are done. They're not competitors anymore.
Bull. We don't care. Don't ever tell me that I don't care about golf.
I want you to look out the windshield and not the rearview mirror. If people said bad things about you, I'm sorry. You're big boys. Get through it. Get over it.
I've had my phone ringing from multiple players on the PGA Tour.
Is that right? Anyone you can tell me, or you don't feel at liberty?
I mean, I don't want you to steal them.
Owning a team is not easy. There is that same sense of accomplishment and doing a good business deal.
From the time I was 12 years old, I wanted to be a professional golfer. But have I earned my spot yet? No.
If you don't win, what's the point?
Winning takes care of everything.
It's like the Kardashians, but better. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
Oh,
coming to
I got such a kick out of every single element of that entire thing.
Kick off your Masters week with that one. But
I'm just glad that somebody, an independent entity, got to the bottom of this story and can finally give us the true story behind LIV Golf. We've been waiting for some journalists and documentarians to get to the bottom of this and give us this product unvarnished with a clean look at everything that everybody said. These guys have proven wrong.
It feels a little bit like I was told Steph Curry isn't a good three-point shooter at the series.
Don't ever tell me I don't care.
Totally.
It's like it literally is just for the internet commenters. Like no person of import has ever said like John Rahm doesn't care about his golf. He's literally just responding to like dumbasses on Twitter that say he doesn't care. Ben Coley wrote a great article on Sporty Life, just like breaking down each individual part. It's like a lot of people and fans, like not just like, I think they're like mocking media people and journalists throughout the course of that, but like a lot of fans of golf have given like very fair critiques of this. And this whole thing just like shits in like everybody's face of like, oh no, you're wrong. Like people said he wouldn't show up. Well, nobody's watching it. Like he gives like a line by line breakdown of like, Kevin Na says there's no point unless you win, which like he's on like the worst team in the entire league is one of them. Paul Casey, oh, well, they said like people said this. Well, he also was the one that said I would be a hypocrite if I played for the Saudis, and sports is very political. I'm glad I took a stance. More so, it highlights issues within the region, especially next door in Yemen. I've seen the numbers. Now he's turning around. Like it's just like such a load of shit. My favorite being the PGA Tour players my phone just won't stop ringing with all these guys. Then fucking sign them. Like where have you been? You haven't signed anybody in like 2 years. It's just that piece tickled me. Absolutely tickled me. It's like the Kardashians, but better.
Hell yeah. You can watch that on April 7th if you are so inclined. Moving on, hole number 11. TGL wraps up their season. Big shout out to William Ho and AB, the fine people of Atlanta, proud sporting city. As Atlanta Drive are your inaugural champions over the New York Mets. Billy Ho delivers an unbelievable putt to clinch it. Sincerely, very, very fun.
It was sweet
moment. Let's go through. Actually, we had a voicemail here to kick off this discussion.
What's up, boys? It's Drew out of SoCal by way of North Carolina. I want to talk about TGL. I think the response from NLU has been pretty muted. One of the things that I think it was Neil that coined the term, nothing excites the passions like a little bit of meaningless competition. And I think the excitement that we get from that we've seen in TGL that is so sorely missing from the tour. I've tuned in 10, 15 minutes here and there, and I've seen Tiger Woods in legitimate stitches over just some stupid crap that's going on TV, and just seeing a little bit of ourselves out there. I think I'd expect a little bit more from you guys. And maybe it's not the most sophisticated product in the world, but I think it deserves its flowers, and I think they've come a long way since the outing. So would love to hear a little bit more from the team on TGL, and maybe a little bit more why the response has been muted. Thanks, guys.
Let me start with our coverage, our response, and then we can get into the actual stuff. I feel like I feel very confident in how we've covered this, in that I think it pretty closely mirrors how I've felt about it, which was initially a ton of excitement. Man, this is wild. This is brand new. This is shiny and fun and different. And I felt as the season went on, it was just it was very missable. You know, it's like very easy to
Optional.
very easy to miss, very optional. And every time I tuned in, if I remembered it was on, or if I, happened to have nothing going on and it was, I'm sitting in front of the TV at 9 o'clock at night or whatever, and I would flip it on, I would have a totally perfectly fine time, with it. It just was, there was a lot of weeks where I missed it and wasn't exactly missing it, Bob. And so that's where I'm like, I don't know, man. I think we covered it up front and we told people what was going on. I don't know that we really need to break down the birdies and bogeys of each week. But
I honestly think that it's just worth saying, like, the scheduling of our programming is like we talk golf on Sunday nights, and by the time like it gets, the golf is usually on Monday or Tuesday, and we have a different set of episodes that we do usually during the course of the week. We don't get around and talk about ongoing events. It was just terrible timing for our programming specifically. So that leads to the muted kind of reaction to it. That's one, I think. And two, to your point, Deej, personally, as I get into my late 30s and in my home situation, I don't have time to watch all of this stuff. Like, it was, the moving around the time slot was tough for me to keep track of who was playing and when. And I don't have time to watch sports in the evenings anymore. I just straight up don't, which like goes to a macro point of, like, as people get older and people get busier, like, you got to make a really crazy good product to make it unmissable, which I kind of felt the same way you did. When I tuned in, I enjoyed watching it. I really did. I think I have a list of improvements that they can definitely make, and it sounds like they are very keen to hear those and want to take action on them. But I'd never felt like I missed out on something big time when I didn't tune in, because you can catch up on the highlights and you kind of laugh along with it. But I would still call year one a success. Like, I think it went better than they probably hoped. Like, it could have gone really, really poorly.
Yeah.
And I think it still has a future. It just, we can go through what worked and what didn't, but I wouldn't call it our response to it muted for any other reason than, like, it doesn't really fit our programming and we're just busy with other shit. Like, I don't have more golf to add to the calendar. I'd like to watch more LPGA Tour golf. I'd like to watch more European Tour golf. I would like to watch more LIV golf, and I'd like to watch more PGA Tour golf. I can't do all of those things as it stands now. So yes, TGL did not bump to the top of the priority list for me personally.
Well, you mentioned it. Let's go through what worked and what didn't. You want to just alternate volley here?
Sure.
Let's start with what worked.
I mean, it was different. It was untethered. I think we said this before. It was unburdened by what had been. It was untethered from what holds golf back on television. It was fast paced. All the shots were live. It's contained to 2 hours. And that's a lot of things that worked, I think. But that was a very clear dub in the positive zone. What do you got?
I would say the triples format was awesome. I loved the 3-man alt shot, bang, bang, bang was really, really, really fun. And that obviously kind of tips its hand to a what didn't. Every time I felt like it got to the singles, I kind of started to doze off and lose interest, and things slowed down. And it wasn't like, I don't know. I think they could very easily get rid of singles going into next year. And I don't think anybody would complain.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see guys just in competition too. Like, once they figured out the hammer rule and changed the hammer rule, like, the matches all got way closer and the suspense of a comeback was looming, and there was some serious comebacks. And it's like, I mean, I was critical of LIV and still am. I'm like, we don't know how the hell these teams came together. Like, we're not going to treat your franchises seriously if we don't, like, know, is there a draft? Is there actual strategy to this? Like, that's still a problem with TGL. I have no idea how they came up with these teams and why. I think it's literally more schedule based. Yeah, that's what it is versus, any real reasons to root for a specific franchise. But I mean, I think they can improve on that if they're going to. I mean, if my Jupe Links team gets serious about maybe not building around two guys that are outside of professional golf at the moment, we can understand that a little bit better.
Tough
but
squad, you hit your.
I mean, my point of all that being, when it got close late, I didn't care about how they ended up with these teams. It was like, I'm kind of curious to see who wins here. And like, getting to see the team aspect with mic'd up and the energy around some of those kind of big moments. There was some legitimately highlight reel stuff that happened over the course of the last couple of months.
Yeah. I guess maybe I'd throw that in another, what worked too, is like the packaging of some of the highlights. Like, and that's kind of almost what works against it too. You mentioned this earlier, but like, when you do miss one and you just see all the highlights getting packaged and you can catch up on, it's kind of like real golf. Like, you can either sit there and watch a 3-hour broadcast, or you can kind of watch the cut downs on Instagram the next day or that night or whatever. It's like, it's pretty tough to sit down and actually, it's just not an urgent thing that you like really feel like you need to watch live. you know? And so like so on both sides of the coins, like I thought they did a great job of cutting stuff up and making media very accessible and, you know, not taking the tour route of DMCAing everything and making sure no highlights are getting out. And it was almost the opposite, like share whatever you want. But then the flip side of that is like, well, I don't know if I need to really watch it live now. So again, that's kind of a dual sided one. Anything else on the what worked, or you want to?
I honestly think it's a positive to like not have to plan my night around it. Like, you know, it was nice to have. It's a nice to have on. It's additive, and we've constantly said nobody was asking for this, so you better not take away from the product of the PGA Tour and your normal golf lives, which I don't think it did. I think it was a nice additive thing, and it's not something that was like, you know, you can miss a week and not feel like you're behind on something. It's just like watching a college basketball game.
I will say this is probably going to get into the easy improvements for 2026 category, but I think what worked, any of the fucked up crazy holes were like the crazier the better was like I don't know, again, not to take a pessimistic view of it, but it was like what didn't work was the stuff that was like we're trying to replicate a very traditional golf hole, and we're going to try to put traditional grandstands, and we're going to try to like
no people.
Yeah, like that's the stuff that's just like, yo, this sucks. Like, why am I watching this? But the stuff that like is very video gamey and very just out there, I'm like, every time one of those holes came up, I was more interested than the former.
Which the things that didn't work. Number one thing, the technology and the gameplay it stinks. Like it's bad. Like I sent a clip. I don't play like the EA Sports video game anymore. I haven't played it in probably 15 years. And like I just saw a clip randomly on Twitter, and I sent it over to our group earlier of like, look at how much better like the gameplay is of this random shot off of Tiger Woods PGA Tour, whatever it is, versus like the TGL. Like the ball rolled on the ground. It had like it legitimately looks like a Tiger Woods game from like 2003. Like it's just very bad, Velcro-y, rough, and like the ball takes the same bounce every time it lands. Like if you're going to advertise the technology being the cool part of it, start from scratch on all of that. You need way more golf holes, way more than you had, because there was just a lot of repetitiveness of a lot of the golf holes, and like make the gameplay good, like make it fun, make it interesting, add some variety and bounces and how things will play out. Change the camera views of balls as they're coming in. Like that's your product. Like that's everything. I mean, we're watching the ball just fly into a screen. Like what happens from there needs to be really interesting, and they got to get that way better. And that's not even to say anything about the full swing monitors, I mean, which were a problem, I think, for a lot of people, and watching them just bite their tongues as they like, yeah, I did not do that to that ball. Like they just got to get that part, has got to be a lot better. Like that'd be like number 1 through 10 on my list of things to improve.
Yeah. I think on my list going broadcast here, and this comes with the biggest caveat possible of this is a brand new thing that they invented from scratch that they're doing for the first time. And so I'm not holding any of this against anybody, but I think that the person in the booth needs to be much less of a traffic controller and much more of like an MC type of like straight up. I think Raj should be that person in the booth. Like I just think that should be like a roasting type of like half stand up, half, you know, moving you from shot to shot type of person. And I think Matt Berry tried to do that, but couldn't quite get there.
They're asking a lot of Matt Berry.
He's in a tough spot.
You're not taking the shots at Matt Berry, and I've said the same thing. Like that, it's not he's having to do too much. Yeah. Like that's too. It's the Matt Berry show, like is what it is, and you need somebody. Either that role needs to be lessened, or it needs to be somebody who's like wildly talented and entertaining, like Charles Barkley level of like being able to carry their own show. Again, that's just an unfair ask of Matt Berry. I think that I think he's totally fine. Way better than I would do in that role. It just is way too hard of a role.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, Marty Smith ain't it. Like,
sure,
that's not working for me.
That, brother. Yeah,
that's just not working for me.
That's not it. I would agree with that. Anything else on the what didn't? I mean, I kind of alluded to the golf holes, like, you know, some of those being pretty boring, but
consistent spot on the. And I know it's schedule related, and I know it's ESPN programming related, but it's got to be on ESPN, and I need a specific time, 1 day a week.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, oh, TGL's on at 5 p.m. today, and then it's 9 p.m. on ESPN2 tomorrow.
And then also there's a triple header.
Yeah, which was sweet. The triple header was actually low key sweet.
To take your word for it.
But it just I mean, it's a busy part of the year as it is, like the best part of the PGA Tour calendar, and it was too many times. It was like after a pretty exhausting week of like a really big golf tournament, players especially like finished on a Monday, and it was like, we got TGL tonight. Like it's hard. It's sometimes hard to ask golf fans to get hyped up for that. I get that you're trying to reach an audience outside of normal golf fans, but your core here is still going to be golf fans.
Yeah, agree. Well, listen, from a truly like pretty heartfelt perspective, congrats to the people who pulled it off.
Yeah.
Because, dude, it is something brand new out of thin air that like you had to build a stadium, you had to get players involved, you had to get sponsors involved, you had to get networks involved. Like none of that is lost on me. It's crazy that this thing exists, which was kind of my takeaway every time I flipped it on. At least once I was like, man, this is nuts that everybody is on the same page and actually doing this thing. I can't believe that this thing actually like became a thing.
Well, I guess I read that there's a wrap-up article on Golf Week I guess it's Tom D'Angelo from the Palm Beach Post written, and it just goes into some details behind it. I guess the buy-in level for these teams is $50 million each.
Jeez.
Which might explain the Arthur Blanks and Steve Cohen groups getting involved with money-wise here. But
in that case, maybe we should just spend the money on something else. But
I don't know if we need to be talking expansion right now.
That wasn't my first thought. That was not my first thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I don't pretend to know the finances of how all this works and kind of the model of it all, but yeah, some of the McCarley stories are a little iffy out there to say. I don't know if I'm like tripling down on it. I think it was better than I thought it was. I don't know if it's like time to blow it out and say this is a banger and this is like the future,
And that's what I think is worthwhile to linger on for a second, is like there was a part of my brain as just the person who's like, let's be open to kind of some futurist ideas and let's rethink everything for just a second. No bad ideas. Could this be like the future of pro golf? Let's just entertain it for a second. And there were times in that first night where I was like, damn, man, I don't know. This is pretty interesting. And like the further and further it went on, the more I was like, okay, my cotton candy high has worn off here. And I just kind of want to watch real golf. And so, yeah, I'm with you where I don't know that this is necessarily the future, but I don't think it's some massive failure either.
The changing the hammer rule mid-season like saved the back half of it. Yeah. Honestly, it made like
blowouts
made for
tough.
A ton of close matches, which is all to say like the list of stuff we're coming up with for improvements. They talk about that in the article too, of like McCarley's out there like, hey, keep your list. Yeah. Everybody keep your list of what we can do better. There is no reason they can't change the things that programming aside is more complicated, but there's no, like, this thing is made up out of thin air.
Yes.
Like there is nothing you need to protect here. It's not like unwinding the PGA Tour media contracts, right, which are impossible from some of the things we want to see improvement on. It's like, dude, just go change it. You could do this. Like, make the gameplay I know it's going to cost money. Make the gameplay technology better, and this thing is a better product.
Yeah,
I promise.
And it's refreshing to see it all change on the fly. Nobody's precious about it.
Impressive.
It's great. All right, a couple long opening holes there, but we've got it's a lot of birdies coming in.
We had to navigate the serpent.
That's right. Also, get rid of Alpine. I'm good on Alpine. I don't ever want to see that hole again. Number 12, Eugenio Chacarra wins in India. Soly, what do you got to say about this one?
If you remember, Shakara was what I'm deeming the whistleblower when he left LIV earlier. And
departed my beloved Fireballs.
Spilling the truth. He had quotes from January. It said, I see what it's like to win on the PGA Tour and how your life changes, how you get major access and ranking points. On LIV, nothing changes. There's only money. It doesn't matter if you finish 30th or first. Only money.
And just going back to the reality show for a second, this guy fucking played in your league. Just real quick, like this guy played in your league. He's the one saying like it doesn't matter. Like maybe just think on that for just a second before you like kind of come at everybody as some like whatever.
He said, I'm not a guy who only who wants more money. What will change my life is playing in Hawaii and qualifying for the majors, qualifying for the Masters, the Ryder Cup. And he moved up into 309th in the official World Golf rankings. Is expected to move up into the top 180 after winning this one. He also said, when I joined LIV, they promised OWGR points in majors, but it didn't happen. I trusted them. So it's interesting. He's taken the DP World Tour route. He got a sponsor's invite, I believe, to the event this week. Goes on to win it at the very difficult DLF golf course out in India. He was one of only 2 players under par, I think, for the entire week. Gets the win, and the route to getting the PGA Tour card would be to get in the top 10 of the race to Dubai on the DP World Tour, and get a card into the tour from that. And I believe, if I'm doing the math right, like I think the suspension would be for a year from the last LIV event that he played. So in time that he would get a card through the DP World Tour. By the end of the year, his suspension would be lifted from the tour anyways, and he would be able to go straight on starting in 2026 if he does go on to get it. So a story with interesting story with he could potentially be the first LIV player welcomed back to the PGA Tour. He was never on the tour to begin with, but he would be the first LIV player to get full status, I believe.
Weird, cool leaderboard in India too. Shakara, Keita Nakajima, just a kind of young stud a lot of people were following, and Joost Luiten, who I thought
Loughton.
Come
on.
I'm sorry.
My Dutch brother here.
I am sorry to him. I thought he was much older than he is. I kind of thought he's just been around forever. I would have assumed he was like 48, 49, 50. He's like 38 years old, 39 years old.
My twin brother. Of course he's 39 years old.
I was very funny to see that you guys were almost the same age as well. All right, moving on. Hole number 13, Soly opening weekend in our beloved Major League Baseball.
1-5 combined for our teams. Not great.
Tough start. We can talk about that at another time.
We got torpedoed.
Not a great start for either of our clubs, but we've been beating the bushes all weekend, man. Just beating up sources, assembling a panel, hundreds of sources coming together to form this list. We wanted to make a list of kind of like who are the best golfing baseball players, like the best current golfing baseball players. I always think it's fun. Like I think of a guy like Gavin Sheets. Every time he comes out, he would come up to the White Sox, to bat for the White Sox. Now he plays for the Padres. I'm just like, great golfer, that guy. And so we just wanted to put together a little bit of a list of other people that a lot of people in the know around the world of baseball would nominate as, some very nice players, some serious golfers. It brings me no pleasure to say that there was a true consensus amongst the entire panel that I think we reached out to. Unfortunately, it seems like Jeff McNeil from the Mets is
corner of the market,
is pretty far and wide, far and above the holding the distinction of the best major leaguer on the golf course, which is tough. I'm not a Jeff McNeil fan. I hate the Mets. It's a bummer to see that. I don't know if you had any reaction.
You hate the Mets?
Yeah, the Mets. I'm good on the Mets. Just the whole.
Why do you hate the Mets? That's a strong.
Playoffs were tough last year, but they also like the they also like the whole like, oh my god, we're so plucky, aren't we so cute? We're the Mets, we're the lovable
Moneyball
fucking highest payroll in baseball. Like, get out of here, dude. You guys just stink as a baseball club. Like, I don't know what to tell you. A couple other nominees, a couple other people just file away. Maybe watch out for if you see them on the first tee. Don't bet with these guys. This one was a surprise. This comes from a very credible source, Ryan Weber. Up and down guy over the last 10 plus years, was last with the Yankees. I believe just one panelist called him the best I've ever seen. That's pretty impressive as a golfer for a guy who also played in the league for 10 years. Bryce Elder, pitcher from the Braves, was a nominee. JP Sears, apparently a 2 handicap out there. Josh Donaldson, Soly, your boy, I know. He used to be a plus handicap, I believe. Don't know if he's in the league anymore or a plus handicap anymore, but worth mentioning.
Why is he my boy? I don't know.
He seems like your boy. I think you guys a lot in common.
Well, he was on your team last year.
That was a couple of years ago.
2 years ago.
Who else is on the list?
Corbin Burns as a nominee. Which might explain getting out to Arizona. I mean, he lives in Arizona, but maybe he wants to play a little bit more golf out there.
I swear, I was at a Brewers game a couple years ago, and they were doing like the little trivia things up on the scoreboard, and there was like a Corbin Burns trivia thing. It was like, "What's the lowest score you've ever shot?" And I swear, he said 63. Because I was like, it like stopped me in my tracks. I was like, "Holy shit!" And like maybe it was 65, something like that. But if anybody can verify that I'm not crazy on that one, I would appreciate it. But
I'm sure people that can get you that answer. But his teammate Zach Gallen, also in the starting rotation there in Arizona, was nominated. Kyle Hart from San Diego. Michael King, I believe a 5 handicap.
Yeah, I threw that in there. Would love to play him straight up. I think that's fair, right? Great pitcher. I love watching on my beloved Padres. 5 handicap. Like I think let's set that up. I would love to.
Are you calling that into question?
No. I think he's a guy that I really admire his game, and if he's a 5 handicap, I'd love to set up a match. I think that sounds great.
Zach Greinke and Justin Verlander.
I've heard stories. Apparently, nice players
there. Mike Yastrzemski and also Kurt Casale, catcher for the Giants, he did a little stint with the Reds as well. Whit Merrifield on the list. Aaron Hicks and Tyler Clippard, kind of in the past tense category.
Those guys got a lot of burn. A lot of panelists nominating both of those guys. One panelist said, I don't know if the Aaron Hicks thing was real or not.
I know. He does the
vanity.
Celebrity stuff and hasn't done that great in them. But Wade Miley, formerly cheating in the Brewers dugout, is now slid over to the Reds. And Luke Maley are some of the nominees. I believe Luke plays off a plus handicap.
Former Brewer and Red as well.
Exactly. He's a good grid guy.
That's right.
Toronto, Cleveland. Some former players. Everybody knows John Smoltz, but Barry Enright also mentioned. Jeff Francoeur. I didn't have
him on my list.
The Frenchman. Tim Lawler.
Strapped alum. Tim
Lawler.
Yeah.
Lawler. Mark Mulder and Kyle Loesch as well noted on that.
Kyle Loesch was nasty. Last thing on this, I got a good nugget from one of the panelists. I really enjoyed this. This was a pro ball player who said this. Said the way to tell if a guy is actually good or not is whether or not they're willing to go play a truly public golf course. Apparently, there's a lot of guys that they just won't go play public course.
Tag berries.
Yeah, it's just like those guys they're not real players. Like you could win money from those guys. So I thought that was a fun indicator. Anyways, hopefully everybody enjoyed opening weekend and hopefully better times ahead for Soly and I personally. I don't know. Anyways, tough. Soly, why don't you take us to hole number 14 here?
All right. We have Barbara. We went to court. We won. Jack Nicklaus has won the case over the use of his own name, image, and likeness. In a court decision this week, a judge affirmed that Jack Nicklaus retains full control over his NIL. So Jack used to do business as GBI Investors, which was Golden Bear International. He sold that company to Howard Milstein, the owner of 8am Golf, for $145 million, which created Nicklaus Companies. Nicklaus resigned from that company, I believe, in 2017. And the question has remained over who owns his NIL after the non-compete expired. This was like the big major ruling, 7 different rulings. I'm not going to get caught up in all the legal stuff. All this to say, Nicklaus has won the case over Howard Milstein. It got really bitter between the two of them. And
fun detail that I liked coming out of this is, so it gets very confusing, but Nicklaus Companies, which is the new company that Jack is no longer a part of, they won a separate suit a while ago to retain all of the rights to Jack's social media accounts. So that is kind of a funny thing. But this whole thing, I don't know if you had a different read on it, but the whole thing just seems like Jack is trying hard to put his name on everything, and maybe this was keeping it from doing that. All the pieces I read kind of felt like fly the banner for Jack can finally put his name on stuff. And I was like, man, that didn't seem like it was an issue, but I guess obviously
it was the first major win in the NIL, a first athlete suing over their own NIL and getting it. I don't know. The whole thing is very confusing because athletes don't sell their business over to another company, and then that's essentially what Nicklaus had to do in the mid 2000s, and it's been kind of tied up in all this legal stuff for many years. But Nicklaus has won. That's all to say. Jack has won his 19th major. So.
We don't know who retains custody of Digital Jack. I don't know if
that's probably still tied up in court for the next 40 years.
Nicklaus Company thing. I don't know if Digital Jack maybe sues for some sort of emancipation from either party. I don't know how that works, but just to kind of seems like kind of a shit show going on over there in the Nicklaus world. But congratulations to Jack. Go put your name on everything. Hole number 15, Dave Pelz passed away this week after a battle with prostate cancer at the age of 85. I want to give the biggest possible shout out to Adam Schupak's tribute / obituary that he wrote for Golf Week. It's one of my favorite obits that I've read in a really, really long time. And it made me realize that I think I knew 1% of the story about Dave Pelz. And it made me really, really regret not learning more about him. And frankly, trying to have him on the podcast sometime over the last 10 years, because he sounds like he lived about 10 different lives, both inside and outside of golf. So I cannot recommend people going to read this obit enough, but a couple of the fun nuggets in there. He went and played golf at Indiana University when he was a young man. I thought this was funny. He just had an 0-for-22 record against Jack Nicklaus in head-to-heads, in match play, and all kinds
of side of the draw.
Yeah, that was just a great sense of humor about it. After that, he went to NASA where he was doing all kinds of research and, kind of like physics type of projections and statistical analysis and stuff. And he left NASA to pursue golf research. Like, golf was such a hobby. He had this, Shupak details it greatly. He had this like fascination with the difference between hitting putters center on and hitting them off the toe or the heel, and how that affects line and speed and break and all of these different things. And he just got obsessed with it and left NASA to go pursue this, and just became like this pioneer in applying statistical research to golf instruction. He convinced Tom Kite to become the first guy to carry 3 wedges, which is really fun. And then Tom Kite went and had like the best season of his career after that. Shout out to KVV here. He developed more than 20 different training aids, more than 40 different training aids. I'm sorry. He held 20 different patents. I did not know this, including for the Odyssey 2 ball, which he was the one that licensed that to Odyssey. So this obit's just full of all kinds of unbelievable,
true pioneer.
Yeah.
Like you read that, you just read all that. Like, that's a pioneer.
Yeah, it's just full of all kinds of little fun anecdotes and factoids. This great quote, I loved this from Patrick Reed. I mean, Pelz was kind of the natural short game guy. Like, that was his big area of expertise. But I love this quote from Patrick Reed, one of the great short games of all time. Everything he ever taught me holds strong and holds true, and it always will, because Dave didn't back anything he wasn't 100% sure of. He didn't sway with the wind. He was the wind. Every time I met with him, he blew me away. I liked that a lot. I also love this, of course, Phil Mickelson, his most famous student. Dave found that the average bunker shot was 10 yards. So I practiced from that distance, and I went from 180th in sand saves in 2006 to 3rd 2 years later, said Mickelson, who again ranked 3rd in 2016. And it's just like, it's a lot of stuff that I'm sure a lot of the stats guys somewhat take for granted now. He was kind of the first guy to do a lot of this stuff based on, Shupak's right up here. And it just RIP to a guy that I didn't know how much more I had to learn about Dave Pelz, but I'm going to be spending the next couple of weeks trying to learn a lot more, because he seemed like a true legend. So rest in peace.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's the whole, I guess, point of an obituary or tribute like that is for people to recognize and to learn in the process. And I'm right there with you, Deej. I was a very underappreciated character in my book. But to live on with Phil's quotes of is it a Pelz 8 or a full 8?
Truly, like, that's what I knew about Dave Pelz. I was like, oh, he must be some sort of instructor. It's like Pelz 8 and full 8. Okay, I got it. And just go back and read all this stuff. It was just such a thrill. Hole number 16. Soly, love is in the air, my man.
I can't believe that this week. What was that, Sunday or Monday? When did he post this?
I
think it was Sunday, wasn't it?
Maybe it was. I think it was, actually. It might have been during the recording of the Sunday Night Pod. Of course, we're talking about the post from the cat, Tiger Woods, who posted a photo with his new squeeze, and the caption.
Did he, like, who wrote this?
I don't, like ChatGPT, maybe. The caption is, "Love is in the." I should say, if you haven't seen it somehow, the first photo is just no shade. Everyone's going through stuff. Tiger looking pretty haggard, just kind of half grin at the camera. It looks like maybe the end of kind of like a beach day or something. Just kind of squinting at the camera, smiling. And then the second photo is like the world's most awkward hammock photo, where they're both kind of laying there, and she kind of rolls over to him and is like almost like hiding her face, and he's just vibing, kind of putting out a little bit of a Weekend at Bernie's type of vibe. And anyway, the caption is, "Love is in the air and is better with you by my side!" Exclamation point. Interesting. "We look forward to our journey through life together. At this time, we would appreciate privacy for all those close to our hearts." I wrote down a couple lists, a list of the things that really got me about this post and this just general concept. Number one, just that the woman isn't identified ever. No name, no tag, no, like, I would like you all to meet my girlfriend so and so. Obviously, everybody knows who this is by now. This is Vanessa Trump, who's the
by now, but at the time, not nearly as much. I don't think
it was still pretty like, I think
it was in the tabloids,
in a lot of places, but yeah, not the common golf fan. I don't think was necessarily like tracking like, oh, surely that must be Vanessa Trump, the ex-wife of Donald Trump Jr., which is who it is, of course. So that really kind of tickled me, of just like, we're going to make an announcement You do your own research on who this is. Why don't
Poosh
you go to her
texted us-
Wikipedia page, by the way? Just go look up what else she's got going on.
Poosh texts us like, "Who's the girlfriend?" I was like, "Oh, Poosh," and then he goes, "Oh God,"
Which brings me to my second bullet point, I think, which is all the reports. Like somebody, I don't even know who it was originally. Somebody got Don Jr. on the record. Everybody has gone with the same quote, which is that Don Jr. is reportedly, quote, cool with it. And that just keeps showing up everywhere. Makes me laugh my ass off, makes me laugh to see it in print. Just the photo, Don Jr.'s cool with it. He's the best golfer of all time, man. How could I say it in the way of love? It's great. I love that the text was edited. I don't know if it was a typo at first. Porter was all over this. Garrett from the Fried Egg was all over this. Originally, it said, "At this time, we would appreciate privacy to all those close to our hearts," which made me feel like I was having a stroke. Like Tiger's one of the few people I have like post notifications on just from the days of like, breaking news, and he's hurt and he's back and whatever. And so I read that and I was just like, God, am I glitching out? Like, what is at this time we would appreciate privacy to all those close to our hearts? Like, what the fuck does that even mean? So that really threw me off.
I was like, did he lose a bet or something? Like, were they playing like Uno? And it's like, all right, if I lose, then yeah, you get to type our announcement on Twitter.
Next bullet point: Tiger had 3 different Sunday Red logos on in the hammock photo, on the shirt, on the hat, on the sunglasses. Didn't know Sunday Red makes sunglasses, but just never quite miss an opportunity for the branding there. Tiger's on a layoff whenever he's got the harsh goat going on. I don't feel like he ever shows up to tournaments with the harsh goatee, but that is very much a like I remember one time my dad grew a goatee like when we went on vacation, and it was like, man, I'm going to be away from work for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Like, I'm going to grow a goatee. And it just seems like Tiger's got that mentality all the time, right? Like, man, I don't have to be at work. I don't have to be showing up at that range. Like, I'm going to be growing a goatee. And that always makes me smile. And then finally, the mirrored sunglasses that he's wearing, I drove myself crazy trying to zoom in. I don't usually do this. I don't usually care about any kind of like couples or relationships or anything, but like when the cat's involved, you just can't help but let your mind wander. And so of course I'm like, who the fuck is taking this photo? Right? Like, this is the most awkward photo ever. Like, who's taking this? Who's posting this? What's going on? And so like zooming into the sunglasses, trying to find some answers.
I got scrubbed out.
Yeah,
I bet that
just weren't there.
That was in the Photoshop. Maybe it was a tripod of some kind. Maybe she's the kind that carries around a tripod. But this was so very confusing. And the caption does not make any sense. Asking for privacy as he goes public their relationship, but
which maybe that's the age old, like, we're gonna put out the first photos so the tabloids aren't trying to haunt us or all the time type of tactic. I don't know, but I want to give a massive shout out to KVV in this week's No Laying Up newsletter. Wrote one of my favorite things he's written in a while. It's this very short essay about how Tiger is the quintessential Florida man, and he does it much better than I'm going to do if I try to paraphrase it. And sign up for the newsletter. It was KVV's got little stuff like that all the time. So, anything else to add on Love being in the air?
No, it's I just still can't believe that was this week. This has been one of the longest weeks ever.
Short one here, so it's just a little tiny par 3, hole number 17. Apparently, everyone hates this Noah Kahan Masters remake. This was the famous Ray Charles "Georgia on My Mind" that ESPN uses for their promos all the time. ESPN was very transparent in a couple interviews about trying to reach a younger demographic through the use of Noah Kahan, who's very hot in the streets right now, and apparently it just did not go well. This didn't really come across my desk until later in the week, but apparently people really despised this.
I went all week without listening to it, and I accidentally clicked on something and it played today, and it's not it.
Justine saw this before I did. She's like, God, did you see this Masters thing? I was like, no, I missed it. But yeah,
put Noah Kahan on the list of things I don't get.
Yeah, I'm gonna be that's kind of the Al Borland NFTs situation. I've looked into Noah Kahan and I've decided I don't need to participate. It's not for me. I wish everybody the best, but I will not be participating. Best of luck. Finally, Soly, let me round it out. Hole number 18. Sergio Garcia has been named an honorary Texan by the Texas legislature. Apparently, this is a thing that they've done.
man.
Yeah, doff your 10-gallon hats to our guy Big Tex. Apparently, this is something that they have done since the 1930s, and it can either be done as a gubernatorial decree or an act of Congress. To let you know, I don't think this is a super rare thing. It sounds like since 2015, this is via my research at texasmonthly.com. Since 2015, Governor Greg Abbott has signed off on more than 1,000 honorary Texan hoods. I got a trivia question for you. I really don't think you're going to get this right, but if you did, it would be all time.
Okay.
Somebody famous became an honorary Texan for donating their private collection of Alamo artifacts, which was the largest private collection of its kind in the world. This person personally held the largest collection of Alamo artifacts, and they donated them to the state of Texas. Who would your guess be on who this is?
Is this related to golf in any form?
Could not be less related to golf. It's an entertainer.
Artifacts. Kenny G.
Honestly, pretty good guess. Phil Collins.
Okay. All right.
I just did not see that coming. I did not see Phil Collins owning the world's largest collection of private Alamo artifacts. That's wild. So there you have it.
I should have guessed Darren Ravel. That would have been
God, that's good. I actually own a signed Daniel Boone rookie card. Other honorary Texans, again, this is via my hitters at texasmonthly.com. Chad Atkins, no brainer there. Russell Crowe, I don't know if I'm tracking on that one. Bob Dylan, Rudy Giuliani, Bob Hope, General Douglas MacArthur, Shirley MacLaine, Don McLean, different spelling, no relation, of course. Chuck Norris, again, that one kind of seems like written in the stars. Sarah Palin, Arnold Palmer. So I guess
Arnie.
I think Sergio might be the second golfer. Houston Oilers quarterback Dan Pastorini,
sure.
but very few other notable Houston athletes that I could find. Arnold Schwarzenegger, John Wayne, of course, and many thousands of others. But I just thought you'd like a little recap of what this means.
Live there for a certain period of time to
I don't know.
It doesn't weird timing.
It doesn't. It both sounds like very buttoned up in that it has to be this act of Congress, and it also sounds like they can kind of do it for whoever, whenever, at any time. So if you got any more trivia out there on honorary Texans, please hit me up because that's pretty fascinating.
Because it sounds like the win at LIV Hong Kong is the one that pushed it over the edge.
It might be like the LPGA Hall of Fame
point system. Yeah.
Yeah, John Wayne. I mean, you finish the searchers, you're pretty much already there. Soly, what else we got from a housekeeping perspective here?
Just obligatory note on Sergio playing a little golf ahead of the Masters.
Is that right?
Just
that's first time hearing.
Is that the 27th in the data golf rankings? Like
really?
Yeah. Just of note.
I missed it.
Just of note.
Okay, he did win. That's right. I remember talking about his win at LIV Hong Kong. I missed his fourth place finish at the International Series Macau. I was not up on that. But yeah, some
just
results.
Some housekeeping notes. Our first major collection, it's updated and refreshed. We got some new green and yellow apparel from Roback and H&B. It is perfect for watching a certain major championship that's coming up in April. You can find that at store.nolayingup.com. You'll find the collections there, the first major collection on there. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. How about that?
Also, on the housekeeping front, I want to give a shout out to our guy, Connor Belcastro, who has been on our podcast before. He's been doing some writing for our website in the past. If you're not familiar, he's a former college golfer who's now trying to make his way in the pro game, and he's writing a newsletter, like a Substack newsletter called Into the Weeds, and I just think it's like really exceptional stuff. This week's episode particularly was great. He had a very, very tough tournament, shot 85, and just wrote all about what he did after, why he think it went that bad, and then just gets really deep into like. He goes to I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but he goes to Michael Thompson's garage. Michael Thompson, he lives down in Sea Island. And so he goes down to Michael Thompson's garage, who apparently has become like this, like big time mechanic, restoring all these kinds of cars. He gets deep into this contrast therapy. Are you familiar with contrast therapy?
No.
Where you sit in like a 225-degree sauna for like 10 minutes. And then you have to sit in I think it's like a 30 or 35-degree cold plunge for 4 minutes, and it's basically so high contrast that your nervous system thinks it's shutting down. So it releases like DMT into your system. Connor writes about all of this and how it relates to golf.
God.
It's fucking awesome. So I would recommend people checking out his newsletter, Into the Weeds, on Substack. I always enjoy reading it and think he's doing, in a world where people are doing a lot of there's a lot of sameness out there.
Yeah.
You know, Connor's doing something totally different, and I applaud him greatly. So
that's well said. I like that. We have a somewhat strong field at the Valero, if I may say. We got Ludwig in the field. Keegan is going to be there. Patrick Cantlay.
You put Keegan in the kind of premier
I copy and
players
pasted
category.
this from Golf Week. It's fine. Patrick Cantlay, Big Tone, Matt Fitzpatrick, Ricky Fowler, Fleetwood, Max Homa Hideki, and of course, next week's winner, Jordan Spliff. We got LIV Miami starts Friday. We, of course, have the LIV Duels on the front end of that. Will the LIV Duels outrate LIV Miami? Is a question that I think we should
like
throw out there.
Sizably, won't it?
Yeah. We have the Anwa on Wednesday and Thursday at Champions Retreat, then Augusta National on Saturday, of course. And as promised, LPGA is wrapping up as they're on the final hole. Hyojo Kim is on the final hole with Lilia Vu chasing her, and Allison Corpuz one shot back. So could be headed for a playoff in that one. We'll have a Anwa preview podcast and LPGA pod coming out later this week, actually on the front half of this coming week as well. So a lot more LPGA talk will come. And then after that, we will have a KVV dive as well in the back half of this week, Masters theme deep dive that I think is going to get everyone even more jacked up for it's coming. I mean, I'm traveling up to Augusta next Sunday. I will be doing the show from Augusta next Sunday, which is kind of crazy to think about, but it is almost April April on Tuesday. So I'm stoked baseball season is here. It's going to be really hard to keep the baseball language out of the show for the next 6 months. So apologies in advance for that one, but
and also should shout out our Seamsters Union season preview went up on the Trap Draw feed. So if you want to hear some takes that already didn't age great across the first week,
what do you regret the most so far?
I mean, I remain very bullish on the Brewers still, but that obviously didn't look great as they gave up about 600 runs in this opening series. You know, we went pretty hard at the Cardinals, who opened the season with a sweep. Over your Twins, who you're all jacked up about. But yeah,
it's so funny. I could be rational on every team in the league except my own. I'm like 1 and 2, we're fucking toast. Now the Twins are 0-3. I'm like, they'll be fine. Yeah, the Cardinals, they'll collapse. Like, they'll be fine. It's just 3 games, but when it's your own team, you live it day to day. No, it's fun. Yeah, the Yankees one, I might need to revise that one if they're going to use these slingshot bats or whatever the hell is going on.
Torpedo bats. We got the home opener in Milwaukee tomorrow. I'll be taking my young son to his first baseball game. I can't wait.
Oh, great is that. Neil already claimed victory in our first. Neil just got added to our fantasy baseball league, and he's claiming victory over me with a week to go in the matchup. So I'm excited to see.
Admittedly, it doesn't look good for you. Your team is stinky right now.
I mean, sorry, it's been 4 days. We're going to be fine. So. All right, we're going to move to wrap. Deej, enjoyed as always. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, we're gonna turn the page over to Masters and Anwa stuff here very soon. Anwa. I used both of them. I think here in the last
I think it's fine.
20 minutes, but nobody's listening to this part of the pod anyway. So, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time. Crack on.
Cheers.